Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have an EQ8 video for you. This will be on designing a quilt from scratch, and it will be a quilt that uses one block, and I'm going to show you how you can build this quilt and arrange the blocks in different settings so that you have different layouts, and how you save this to your computer and to EQ8, and how you can calculate the yardage that you need for the quilt. So we're at the home screen right now, and I'm going to click Design a Quilt from Scratch, and this will get us to the quilt work table. You can see over here in the upper right hand corner that it says Quilt Work Table, and we're on New Quilt, and here what is highlighted is horizontal, and this is the layout that I want. I want to do a horizontal because I'm going to just do the same block in each of these spaces here. But we're going to adjust the layout a little bit. So we're going to go to the layout, and here is the number of blocks, and it's 4x4, which is good for showing you different ways you can arrange your blocks for different layouts. But I want to change the size of the block. Here it's defaulted to 9. I'm going to click Keep Width and Height Equal because they're going to be square blocks, but I want 8-inch blocks. So let's see if I can, there. Here we have 8, and I don't need any sashing. So I'm just going to ignore this section down here. And up here it's telling you the size of the quilt. So we've got 4 8-inch blocks, so it's saying it's 32 by 32. I do want some borders, so I'm going to go up to borders, and we're going to look up here. It says select border. Here's border number 1, and it's saying that the size of the quilt now is 34 by 34 because the borders are set for 1 inch. But I want this border to be wider. I want it to be 2 inches, so I'm going to set my slider for 2. And I'm going to add another border, and this one I want at 4 inches. So we're going to slide this up to 4. And then I want a third border that is going to represent the binding. So I'm going to add one more border, and I'm going to set this at 2.5. And that's going to be big, but this is what I'm going to do for yardage, and I want this border to be mitered, so I'm going to set this one for mitered, and the rest are set long horizontal. So you notice when I click on these borders it says long horizontal, and that means the longer border is on the horizontal, so it's on the top and the bottom of the quilt, which is the way I normally piece my borders. Okay, let's go to the Design tab, and now we're going to work with the blocks. So the block tool is highlighted, and we're going to select blocks, and these are all the default blocks, but I want to use that hovering hawks block that I used in the last EQ video. So I'm going to open the library, and that was under my favorite blocks, and it was a 4-patch block, so it's at the end. So I'm going to slide over, and it's right there. So I'm going to click it and then add it to the sketchbook, and then close. And here's my block. So I'm going to set the block. So that tool is selected, and I'm going to click the block, and I'm just going to click in each square here in my design. Okay, one thing you'll notice, these purples and the greens are textured. Those are the fabrics that I used in designing the block. And let's look at the fabric tools, and I'll show you why those are correct, and then the background is just a solid color. That's because these two fabrics I chose out of the default palette, and the palette is what automatically comes up when I open it. So the fabric that I used for the background of this block is not a default. It's a special fabric that I chose. So I want that in this layout. So I'm going to open the fabric library here, and that was a Manufacturer Basics. It was a Jenny Buyer fabric. So we're going to go to the RJR Jenny Buyer, and then I'm going to search until I find that fabric, which is right there. So I'm going to click it and add it to Sketchbook, and then close this screen, and there's that fabric right there. And you'll notice that now all of those background squares are colored with that fabric, and that's because that's the way that block was saved, with that fabric in there. So we've got all of that there. Now I want to start coloring my borders, so I'm going to choose my eyedropper here because I want to find this purple fabric. So I highlight that and it shows it right there. So now I can highlight or color that border, and I'm going to click the eyedropper again, and I'm going to click on the green, and there's that fabric, and I can color the outer border. Now there's the third border here is my binding, and I want to use let's click on this one and take a look at that. Okay, so here is just a straight layout. All the blocks are in the same orientation, and I've got just tone on tone fabrics for the borders. So you know that looks okay, but we can do more with this. But I want to go ahead and save this to the sketchbook. So I'm going to click on the add to project sketchbook, and it tells me that it's added to the sketchbook, but it's not saved to my computer. So I'm going to click OK, and then it's going to pop up a screen to save it, and it's showing me where it's going to save it here, and that's okay with me. So this is Hovering Hawks Quilt EQ8. I'm going to do EQ8. You can see I've been working on this video for a while. So here's another one that I saved, but we're going to save it to this one. So everything that I do on this video will be shown in this folder, in this workbook. So we're going to save that. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I want to play around with the layout of these blocks. And so I am going to go back to the block tool and the rotate tool. And I'm going to rotate every other block. And here we get a star pattern, which is, I think, a little more dynamic than the other ones. So I'm going to add that to the sketchbook. And then I want to click all of these, and you can see here this is forming an arrow. So let's finish that design. So here we've got kind of a zigzag effect, plus we have arrows. The outer arrows are going up, the middle arrows are going down. And let's add that to the sketchbook. And then let's click all of these, rotate them all again, and now the arrows, the outer are going down and the middle is going up. So I'm going to add that. Okay, those are great, but I actually prefer this layout. So let's go with that. Another thing I want to do is I want to play around with this outer border. I think I want to change some of the fabric there. So let's go to the fabric tools, and I want to look here. I think I'm going to, let's look in the library. I want to go back to the library, and I'm going to go to themes. And I think a floral would look nice in here, but let's see what we've got to make it look a little more traditional. So let's look at large florals, and let's see if we've got something that I think would blend well with what we've got. going already. Here's a basic gray. I'll click on that. And trying to decide. Oops. Okay, I'm going to go back to the basic gray because I forgot to hit my control button. So let's go back to there. If I can find it again. There we go. Okay, when you do multiples, you don't have to add each one individually. Just click or hold down your control key, and that will highlight. And try that one too. It'll highlight that block, select it for you. It's hard to see what these fabrics are going to look like until you put them in your quilt anyway. So let me try one that's a little more neutral. Let's try this one. Okay, we're going to add that to the sketchbook, and let's look at leaves. And here we have some autumn looking, Christmas looking fabrics. Let's do Tonga petals, and there's 2 Tongas. And that one. Okay, we're going to add all of those to the sketchbook, and we're going to close, and we'll see what those look like. So we're going to go to the end of the fabric palette, and now all of those that I selected are here. So they start from here, and we have this row 2. So let's look at this green, and we'll just put that in, and this is more blue than purple, so I don't think that one will work. Let's look at this one. This one is a little overpowering, so let's try this one, and that has yellow in it, lots of yellow, which doesn't quite go with what I've got going on there. Okay, now that one doesn't look bad, except this is more of a tan, and whereas this background is gray. And I'm not sure where that one came from. That one won't work. Okay, here's this one. Which has got some green in it. Okay, this one looks better. I like that. It kind of softens the quilt. And let's look at this neutral. And once again, this is more brown than gray. So of all of those that I chose, I like this one better. So I think I'll go with that. I think I like that better than the green. And this border here, maybe I could change that to here. I'm going to go ahead and save this version, and then let me go back to this one, and I'm going to save this one too. Now this is just the binding, so that doesn't have quite as much impact, but it does have some. And I think of all of these, I think I do like the darker purple. Let's see if there's another. Here's another dark purple, but that's, I think, too dark, so we'll go back to that. Okay, so I've got all of those versions saved to the sketchbook, and let's go to print and export, and let's figure out what the yardage is needed to make this quilt. So we're going to, it's on print, we're going to go to yardage, and here is the width of the fabric, which is, you know, your normal 45 inch wide fabric. You can click the fat quarters only, and it'll show you how many fat quarters you need to make this quilt, but it would also tell you that these borders are going to be pieces are going to be too long to use fat quarters. Okay, your seam allowance is 1/4 inch, and right now I just want to preview this. I don't want to print it, I just want to look at it. So I'm going to click preview, and here's the 4 fabrics that I have, and it tells me I need 1 yard of my background, 3/8 of the green, 1 1/8 of the dark purple, and 5/8 of the light purple. And then we have pound signs here, and it's telling you that they're assuming that the long strips in your quilt are going to be pieced. So that means they're telling you that they're assuming you're going to cut on the width of the fabric, not the length of the fabric. So if you're going to cut on the length of the fabric, if you're a person who doesn't like seams in your borders, you're going to have to calculate that yourself and figure out how much yardage you're going to need for that. But here it has the name of the fabric as well as the SKU number, so that you can order these online real easily. Make sure you're getting the right fabric. Of course, you're going to have to make sure those fabrics are still available for sale, because you know how fabric is, they print it once, and once it's gone, it's gone. A lot of fabrics aren't printed over again, except for the basics in each manufacturer makes. Like that Jenny Buyer was a manufacturer's basics, so that one would be reprinted as needed, but these others may not, so you'll have to consider that too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close, and I'm going to cancel, but I also want to save the image. So I'm going to switch this border first. So if you click on it, it's showing you what the width of that border is too. So it's 49 by 2.5, but I want this to look more like a binding instead of a border. So I'm going to go back to the borders, and that is the 3rd border. So we're going to go to the 3rd border. Oops, if I click the right arrow, there's the 3rd border, and I'm going to switch this down to 1/2 inch. Okay, and now I want to look at it as it's colored, and see, that gives you a different look. It looks better to me. It looks like a finished quilt. It's got the nice thin border there, or binding right there. And so we're going to go back to print and export, and actually I'm going to save this, so I'm going to go ahead and click add to Sketchbook. And now I'm at print and export, and it's on the, click the export button and click image. And here's where I'm going to save it. You can save it anywhere you want to on your computer. And we're going to save this as, I'm going to do H Hawks 1. And then here it's showing me what size it's going to save it at. It's going to save it as 8 inches by 8 inches. And it's going to use 75 dots per inch. You can increase that if you want, or all the way up to 600 if you want, or you could go down as low as 72. I'm going to leave it at 75. And for this one, I'm going to outline the patches and the blocks. And I'm going to click OK. Now I want to save it again. So I'm going to click on images. And we're going to name this H Hawks 2. I'm just doing this just to show you what it looks like with different settings. And I'm going to uncheck the outline patches and click OK. And then I'm going to save it one more time. And this is going to be H Hawks 3. And I'm going to uncheck the outline patches and the outline blocks and click OK. All right. One thing you can also do is look in your sketchbook. So we're going to view the sketchbook here. And I'll give that a minute to get everything together for us, and we can scroll through the sketchbook and look at what we've got, so you can compare. So here it's telling me you can click on the quilts, or you can click on the blocks, Like there's the block that we used, and then those are all the default blocks, but that's the block we used. And here is the fabric palettes. Of course, it has all the defaults, and it has all the other fabrics that I put in there. And right now we're going to look at the quilts. So it has a total of 8 quilts. So I'm just going to click through them, and it'll show me all of the different variations that I saved of this project. So there's the 8th one. That's the one that I like. So you can edit it, you can copy it to photos, and you can just, you know, sort it, all kinds of things. You could put a note card on it. So if we edit the note card, I'm going to name this Hovering Hawks, if I can get my fingers to work. And this is a EQ8. Oh, let me change that. And this is a (4x4) quilt layout. You could add any notes in there that you want. You could put the size of the quilt and anything else in there you want. So close that out and close this out. And I wanted to show you all the different variations that I saved here. So I'm going to navigate to that. So let's go to quilt patterns, my quilt patterns, and see. Okay, so here they are. So I'm going to double click on the first one. And give that a bit to load, and then let's enlarge it. Okay, here's the first version. This has the outlines for all of the piecing, all of the blocks, and all the borders. And then the second photo is just showing you the piecing lines for the blocks, but not the piecing. And then the third one is going to show you without any lines on there. Okay, so this block has no lines on it. It just looks like a pieced quilt. So you can use these images to post online. You can put them in your Facebook page, your Instagram, any videos that you make. You can, you know, email them, whatever you want to do with them. So or just to keep a record. So there you have that. So now everything is saved into my sketchbook, and you'll notice up here in the upper left corner it says Hovering Hawks Quilt EQ8, and that's how you can design a quilt and change your fabrics and your colors and your settings, and calculate your yardage, and save your images to not only your sketchbook but to your computer. So I hope you found this video useful. So if you like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.